And we're back. This is a community radio show on WLEE News Talk 990. You're here with Bakari Sirraj, and I was trying to give you another nickname. I wasn't going to call you Mastermind again. Muhammad Hadi. How's it going, man?
Welcome. Right back. Welcome.
So check it
Welcome
out.
Back. So.
My dad called during the break, and he said he got my lamb, but he doesn't actually have it. Sitting out in the field right now and basically taunting him because he can't catch it.
It's on the premises.
Yeah, it's on the premises. So I'm gonna have to go back up there after the show and see if we can.
You should practice your lamb calls, man.
Well, see, this is the thing. At the point like when he can see you, then it doesn't really have the same effect because he kind of can see, what's making the noise and say, "You're not a lamb." So he'll look at you. So the thing is, if you're trying to call it, then. Kind of want to get him out of the woods or whatever. And within the visual.
Are we gonna get updates from your dad throughout the show? The lamb update. We need one of those those ominous music.
We need to have a side feed on the
Twitter updates.
Twitter updates. Yeah, the lamb has been spotted. He's, this is his longitude and latitude.
Exactly.
All right, so on to more serious things. Not that your lamb for you is not serious.
Yeah, man.
We're going to be joined by Fatima Ashraf. She was currently working with All Hands on Deck, an organization committed to finding and motivating the millennium generation to register and vote. In 2008, she organized hundreds of volunteers and registered thousands of voters in the swing state of Pennsylvania. So transplant to Richmond from New York. That I still don't get. Where she worked for a mayor as an education policy advisor. So far, she's loving the southern hospitality, warm weather, and loves the south of the James Farmers Market. Let's see if she still likes Richmond after the storm that we're supposed to get. Fatima, are you there? Hello.
Hey, guys.
Hey, welcome.
Welcome. Eid Mubarak, how are you?
Thank you. Eid Mubarak to you, too. Everything's good. Yeah, you're right. The storm has everybody pretty crazy.
I know.
I don't know why I say some flashlights and batteries and you're good. Couple candles, a lighter, boom, that's it.
I agree with you. With you, Bakari, but there could be some serious ramifications for the election, which is what I've been reading about and hearing about lately.
Yeah, and for early voters.
That's right. Anybody that can get out and vote early should vote early. It is very, very, very important. I mean, it's not just because of the storm, but because traditionally on Election Day there is so many issues that happen at the polls. We know all the stories of voter disenfranchisement. Voting early can negate all of that.
Yeah, so we were at Eid yesterday, and we were passing out flyers. It was interesting to see, or people told me the number of people that have already registered. Have either voted absentee already or have voted in advance.
That's
early voting, right? And I think which is interesting because doesn't that historically favor Democrats, which is why there was such a concerted effort in some swing states such as Ohio to cut that time in half or totally eliminate it altogether?
I mean, I think historically, meaning maybe the last, like in the early 80s, like Reagan era, but actually historically, as in 2000 and 2004, early voting has always favored Republicans because it's usually older folks that go to the polls early or send in absentee ballots because they're planning ahead for the difficulty that they'll have to get to the polls on Election Day.
Right.
Okay.
So, in fact, a lot of people who would be voting Democrat don't even know that there is an early vote option. I myself did not know of the early vote option in Virginia until about 3 weeks ago. I was told unequivocally by someone from the Board of Elections office that there is no such thing as early vote.
That's
it was a semantic issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a semantic issue, right? Here in Virginia, it's called absentee vote in person. It's not called early vote. Same thing, but it's known as absentee vote in person officially.
Wow.
Which is why yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, it's just because I didn't know that you could vote. I knew you could do absentee ballot voting.
Okay, does that sound a little bit ridiculous to you?
Yeah,
absentee vote in person? Really?
Yeah, right. So every state has absentee ballot voting. They have to because a lot of people, leave during election season for whatever reason. But absentee in person is what it's called here in Virginia. So it's like saying, okay, well, I'm not going to be here on Election Day, but I'm here now, so I'm going to go in person now. And that's why they have that strange title for it.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Only in the South, man. Only in the South can they just, jazz it up like that. So I wanted to talk about a little bit about, I'm sure you're much more deeper into this than I am, but obviously there are several swing states that are in play: Michigan, Ohio, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Florida. Some say Colorado and possibly even Nevada. But of the first 5 that I mentioned, that has a large contingent of Muslims, particularly in Michigan. And I was reading that in Florida, that in 2010 they found that 60% of the registered Muslim voters in Florida were likely to vote. So that's a significant number, more than the general population. So my question, the long-winded question, is there an advantage to this kind of this notion of block voting by Muslims?
Yeah, I personally think that there's a huge advantage, especially because elections, as each year goes by, are becoming so much closer. Right? Florida in 2000 was won by a 566 vote margin by President Bush. Like, that's ridiculous. 566 votes. Hadi, that's like your family, right?
I know 566 people. It's just,
That is true.
So it's as each year provides opportunities for closer elections, that means it provides opportunities for communities with good, solid, united numbers to swing those elections, which will force those politicians to then take note of those communities, right? So, like, for example, a good example is the Arab community in New York City, right? Previously, they were completely ignored by politicians. Once they started to become united and to vote as a bloc, city council, state representatives, even Senate, right? U.S. Senate starts to come to their doors and to their stores and to their mosques saying to them, hey, we want your votes, hey, we want your votes. Once you have a politician coming to your door saying, we want your vote, you know that you've organized yourself well. And once they come to your door saying, we want your vote, and if they actually do get voted into office, you do have the power to go back to them and say, hey, remember what we did for you? Now you've got to do these X number of things for us. I mean, I think that the Arab community in New York is a great example of, getting funding for their organizations after politicians that they have voted for have gotten into office. They've gotten permits for mosques. They've gotten all kinds of stuff done. Yeah, obviously New York City has a lot of other things going on with the Muslim and Arab community, but in terms of getting noticed by politicians, this is, I think, a very good thing that's happened and can happen as a result of block voting.
Right. It was interesting because you mentioned that kind of the elections getting closer. I was saying that in the 2004 and 2008 elections in Florida, it was settled with less than 2% of the vote.
Yeah.
And in 2000, the estimates were that 60,000 Muslims in Florida
voted for Bush.
Yes.
Sad.
That's right.
And in Florida, there's approximately 124,000 registered voters. So, but the question, as far as the block vote, it makes sense that it works. But the underlying question to that is that doesn't that then project a stereotype or this notion that the Muslims are all just homogenous and therefore that's why they're voting in blocks, and that the Muslims from South Asia have the same needs or are interested in the same thing as the Arab Muslims, and they both come together and vote in a block.
That's a great point, but no, I don't think so, because we can say that about any block community, right? African Americans have voted in blocks forever. Jewish folks vote in blocks. So, and in each of those communities, I have a wide range of diversity within them as well. So I think in order to get yourself noticed, you have to show strength in numbers first, and then the community can say, okay, but we have some specific needs specific to each of our, different kind of constituent sectors as well. But if Muslims would vote in block, would not vote in block and just kind of vote all over the place based on, their ethnic preferences or whatever, then it's just not going to get anywhere, because the vote would just be all over the place like it has been in the past, or non-existent.
Right.
Essentially, an all over the place vote is the same as a non-existent vote.
Because basically the votes cancel themselves out after a point.
Exactly.
Right.
And nobody's going to look at you. Think about it. The Muslim community, we have been used as a punching bag in elections. Folks aren't coming to us saying, what do you want? They're actually using us to get block votes from other communities.
Exactly right. We're getting used so other people can win. So it's like it's about time that we kind of determine, who wins based on our needs. And it's interesting you mentioned there's a great article. It's a little outdated. Obviously it's from April of 2012, but it's still out there. It's called The Muslim Swing Vote. It was in the New York Times, and it's written by Fareed Sanazi, who's a professor at Santa Clara University, and he argues for the same thing, that basically that with the rise of Islamophobia in this country, that, particularly in the Republican Party and conservatives, they can guarantee kind of the polarization of their base by targeting Muslims.
Right. I do think, and so Fareed Tenzai is also the Director of Research at the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, and that institute pumps out very relevant studies almost monthly. So it's still very relevant, that article, and the study that's linked in that article. But the thing about this, like using Muslims as a punching bag, it's almost the first step, right? It's the precursor. So once we've been used as a punching bag enough, there's no doubt, I have no doubt that our community that is, has the propensity to be engaged and to be intellectual and to be politically smart is going to stand up and say, wait a second, this is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. We're done getting punched in the face. We're done getting kicked in the stomach. Like, let's all get together and make sure that this stops happening. And I think that there was an effort towards that in 2008 when Muslims, voted in huge numbers for President Obama. And I think this time they should realize that, yeah, okay, he hasn't been the greatest for the past 4 years, but if we stop voting now, then any progress we made in 2008 gets completely washed away. Right? Politics is a very, very fickle game, and we have to be in it for the long term, and other communities have experienced this. It's not like the Jewish bloc vote was solid from the first day that a Jewish person stepped foot in this country, right? They had to develop it and hone it over many years, over many elections. And same with the African-American vote. I mean, that was far more complicated because they couldn't vote, and there was like this whole thing, right? Obviously, civil rights movement, et cetera, et cetera. But
right.
Communities had to pull together and keep trying. So there would be years where they would be pushed backwards, and then there would be years where they would be pushed forward. But you should never take that year that you'll be pushed backward as an apathetic moment to say, well, forget it. We're getting pushed backward anyway, so who cares? That's not a good strategy for the long run.
All right, you're listening to the Community Radio Show on WLEE News Talk 990. Our numbers are 788-0990, 788-0990. We're talking to Fatima Ashraf from All Hands on Deck, and we're talking about the Muslim bloc vote and Muslims voting in general. And I'm glad that you brought up the Muslims voting for Obama, because this is not scientific, it's just anecdotally, but just in my experience of talking to Muslims, as far as the vote is concerned, there is this general sense of disillusionment towards Obama for some of the things that he said he was going to, that he couldn't do. And so, what would you how would you answer that? I think you answered a little bit, but if you want to expand on that, is as far as he promised he was going to do all these things and he didn't do it.
I mean, I get it, right? I'm with you, disillusioned Muslims. I feel the same way. I was so excited in 2008, but I think what we have to realize is that 2008 was an apex, right? It was so amazing to have this incredibly different candidate who's so far departed from the regular political machine run for president that everyone was super excited about that prospect to begin with. And we had been so dramatically oppressed under the Bush administration that the fresh change was what we wanted and what we were seeking. But we were being unrealistic. Politics is politics. Candidates are actually very, very similar, right? When it comes down to it, they are very similar. So what happened these past 4 years is what would have happened given any candidate's victory. However, the differences really exist in small changes that I think President Obama has made that do benefit Muslims in the long run. So a couple of things. Social policy in the United States, right? Making sure that education is available to all and does stay public and does not start to head in the private direction. We do have a significant number of people in our community who are working class and lower income and need to access certain government services, right? We have lots of members of our community that are immigrants that need certain rights and certain services when they come over here and want to come over here to begin with.
Sure.
Under a Republican administration, those kinds of programs are what go first.
Right.
Right. So I think what happens is that Muslims get really hung up on international policy, not realizing that every president is going to have the same international policy. America is about domination and control of the world, right? In fact, if you really think about it, Barack Obama, though, he has made good relationships with Muslim countries abroad, right? Whereas during the Bush era, it was like this severe hatred and this image of we are all bad and we all just want to dominate and kill. But when I say we all, I mean Americans. Whereas under President Obama, it has been more diplomatic and a little bit more calm.
Now some people may even go to go to disagree and say, like in the instance where Osama bin Laden was captured, that he's tried to make good with Pakistan, but then he'll still come in the back door whenever he wants to.
Yeah, so I would say to that, can you imagine what would have happened if it was a President John McCain that caught Osama bin Laden?
He would have just came through the front door. All right, look, we got a call on the line. We're going to conference him in and see maybe he has a question here.
All right, Reggie, you're on a community radio show with Fatima. Welcome.
Good evening, Ross, and good morning. Pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
2 points, and I just wanted to get the panel thoughts on this. One, I don't know if the panel knows this, but the state of Virginia, that if an immigrant has any kind of health issue, that they can be treated. But if you go to another country, they want to make sure you have cash up front.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I want to bring out. Second of all, just look at, I call him Mittens Romney. I'm trying to be nice about this. But anyway, the man has been so flip-flop all over.
Agreed.
And I mean, I think that when Colin Powell comes out and endorses President Obama, that says a lot. Because one, he knows about military, and two, about how to make a leaner, more effective military. So my question to the panel, if I may, if President Obama, in your opinion, has he not shown a more of an outreach than what Mitt Romney would have done since he's been flip-flopping? And I'll hang up and listen.
All right, thanks for your call.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I mean, yeah, Mitt Romney is definitely, he's been all over the place, even across party lines, But I think, especially looking at the military aspect of it, I think Obama is handling it better. And, he explained that in the last debate, that it's not just about having, a super large military with just numbers. It's about being smart and effective in strategy in terms of being able to secure the goals of protecting the country and national interests. Now, of course, there's going to be actions that we can all debate whether it was good or not. Especially from an Islamic standpoint. Looking at how some Muslim countries are being handled. But from a perspective of living in the country, I think certain downscales and certain ways that he's handling would be better in contrast to how the Republicans. Specifically, Mitt Romney, and even if some of the other previous candidates that were on the ticket for the Republican nomination, how they would have handled it, it would have been more money, more war, and right. It would have been bad for the country and the world.
Right. I mean, I also think it's really, really important when we look at Mitt Romney to just especially for Muslims, think into the future a little bit. Imagine that he does get elected. Think about who he's going to appoint to his cabinet-level position, right? Think about the kinds of people he surrounds himself with and the kinds of people that support him. They are not pro-Muslim in any sense of the word, nor will they ever be. In fact, they are coming from the right wing, they are coming from the conservative parties, and they're coming from further right-leaning Republicans. There's not a lot of moderates that right. Mitt Romney surrounds himself with. So
right.
that is something to be severely afraid of.
Right. 17 of the 24 foreign policy advisors are neocons from the Bush era. And if you needed any more convincing than that, today is Saturday. I believe on Thursday night, Romney had a fundraiser that was hosted by Dick Cheney and Glenn Beck in Texas.
There you go.
So, I never understood this notion of, my particular candidate didn't give me everything that I wanted, therefore I'm going to punish him or her by voting for someone else that's guaranteed not to get me what I want. It was like, what happened
not
is
voting.
Oh, right. That and like the whole, Scott Brown in Massachusetts, like.
All right. And this also brings us back, what we had spoken about the first time we had you on, voting early, not in terms of voting early for this election, but voting early from getting, your local people locally pushed up to that federal level. You know what I mean? Because even still, bottom line is, in my opinion, neither Obama or Romney are really the perfect candidate, for what I would really want as a presidential leader, But we got to stand behind the right people early on, support them, and vote them into offices, vote them into the positions that we need those people voted into.
Right.
That's right. Let's be real. If our 2010 elections had gone differently and we would have maintained a Democratic House and Senate, then Obama would actually have accomplished way more in these 4 years. And we might not be, we might not be so angry right now. So I think that, yes, it's very important. And the other thing I want to say is when people go to the ballot here this time on November 6th or early, which we're encouraging people to go early, make sure you know what else is on your ballot. Like, who else are you voting for? Senate, House, your local state Senate, state representatives, council, all those people. You don't necessarily have to vote on party lines. In the case of federal government, it probably is in your best interest to do that. But you should be voting for each and every office that's listed on your ballot.
And
here in Virginia,
go ahead.
Here in Virginia, I think this time around, because Virginia has elections every year, which is amazing and very unique. But this November 6th, I believe it is just going to be President, Senate, House, and then a few local offices and some referendums. So that you don't have to do a lot of research this time around is what I'm saying.
Right. There are no county board of supervisors or anything. I know in the city of Richmond there's the mayor. But I'm glad you brought up the Senate because it's former Governor Tim Kaine and former Governor George Allen. And for those of you that forgot George Allen's macaca moment, look that up and look up his background of where he's from and from the region that is I believe his maternal mother is from North Africa. That is a racial epithet. So that was not something that he just made up. It was, So thank you. We have another call. Can you hold on and we can take this, or did you need to? Because I always tell people that I bring them. I'm like, it'll be a 10 to 15 minute interview. Right. I don't know why I keep doing that.
Well, how about this? Why don't we go ahead and take this call, and after this call, we'll go ahead to commercial break.
Yeah, because my producer's staring me down. Hold on one second. All right, we got Jeffrey. Welcome to the community. Jeffrey, welcome to the community radio show. Well, thanks.
How's it going?
Yeah, how you doing? Hey, listen, I hear you talking about Mitt Romney and the different religions and stuff, and what people don't realize is religions don't pick people, but people do pick religions.
True.
And what happens is when you have people in a certain mindset, then you have to deal with that mindset, especially if he's going to rule over you or control a part of your life or tell you, how you should live your life.
Right.
You gotta. He's going to base it on the way he thinks. Now you have a person like Mitt Romney. He's a Mormon, and they don't believe in having black people in no kind of position in their church. They can attend the church, but they can't have a position. Now, as far as Muslims go, they don't relate to Muslims at all. And, in fact, they don't relate to other religions at all. They kind of got a self-centered way of saying, well, this is the way it is, and this is the way we see it, and then if y'all don't see it our way, we just keep on going about our business.
Gotcha.
And that's the kind of attitude that Mitt Romney has in a lot of ways. He wants you to see things his way. And if you don't see it his way, then it doesn't bother him at all. He just goes on about his way. Yeah. But if he gets in power, believe me, he's going to put that kind of thinking on the people that he's going to be,
leading at that point,
or dealing with.
Right.
I hate to call them leaders because they are not really the real leaders of this world. The real leaders of this world are the people that got billions and billions of dollars. They control everything.
Right.
The politicians, what they do is they're almost like puppets on a string where they have to do certain things to a certain limit and make people think that they're controlling things, but they're really not controlling because, see, you got the Democratic Party and you have the Republican Party, then you have the House of Congress. And even though Obama says he wants to do certain things, he still has to go. He has to get the Democrats on his side. Then he got to get the Republicans agreeing with the Democrats. Then the House of Congress got to agree with the whole situation.
Gotcha.
I mean, so people don't realize.
Thanks for the point. I hate to cut you off, but I got the music coming up, so that means that we got to go. Thanks for calling in, Jeffrey.
Yeah, we do appreciate that. We'll throw in a little bit of feedback when we get back from the break on that.
So you're listening to the Community Radio Show on WLEE News Talk 990. The numbers to call 788-0990, 788-0990. We'll be back in a couple minutes.